Ariel, we got like pretty much right into the interview, and we didn't
I
do
know.
any introduction at all, and that's fine. Really quick, I am highlighting a series about what's who's going to be speaking at the Women of Web3 Summit down in Miami, Florida, November 30th through December 1st, and so you are on my list of people that I get to speak to.
Yeah, I know, definitely. This is my first time. I'm an academic. I've been a professor for the last 12 years.
Okay.
So I decided to stop teaching and come on board to the Web3 stuff. And yeah, so I'm actually quite new to it.
Well, that's I love the, one being able to chat with you about a first perspective, what
Mhm.
you think jumping in now versus, I think some of us that have been in it for years. My first experience was through cryptocurrency, not NFTs, not digital art. And so, getting burned a few times, getting scammed, getting hacked, I definitely have a little bit more of a jaded perspective of some of these things. But I love and really my main focus in what I do is about Web3 is really where the metaverse is going to take us, and with that kind of all things encompassing, right? Like NFTs, like yeah, right now just PFPs are pretty cool, and that's pretty much all that people understand about NFTs and digital art. But it is just so much farther down the road where we're going, that this is basically just the beta test.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that I am not as enthusiastic about PFP projects.
Mhm.
I come from a background of, art. I'm an artist, and I'm working with the Mud Foundation as their outreach coordinator. And the Mud Foundation has been working with digital artists who have been working long time prior to NFT technology. And so we actually, I mean, we're just now first talking about, doing an NFT for a membership, but we don't actually work with artists that already do NFTs, and they certainly don't do PFP projects.
Right.
That's not the type of artists that we are with. The type of artists we are with are the ones that have been working with technology for a long time, often with museum help, often with very little sales, because their work was seen as unsellable.
Yep.
And they would rather have their work retain, like, for example, we have net art. So net art was a internet-based artist that was really big in the 1990s. And a lot of these artists did not want their artwork to be collected or collectible.
Right.
So it's the exact opposite of the NFT artists that are currently working.
Right.
So when I first, saw NFT art, I thought it wasn't for me or for any place that I would go to, because I thought it didn't look right. First of all, it didn't look, it had a different look to it. And I also didn't recognize any of the artists that were working in it. I just didn't know who they were. And I said, maybe this isn't for me. And it's only been since the crash of the market, this recent one,
Hmm.
that artists that, I know and who I've known for decades, that they've actually started to embrace the technology. So, but I think mostly because they were turned off by these large PFP projects, and they were
Right.
turned off by people flipping artwork, which from where I'm coming from, selling artwork, is not good. Like you usually sell because there's four reasons. There's depth, there's death, there's divorce, and then the fourth one is drugs. I mean, maybe there's more drugs in Web3. I don't know.
There could be.
But
That's really interesting. It's I love hearing your perspective. I think this is going to be a great conversation that we have. There's a lot of industries I think that are fighting the change. Maybe one, it's just change, but two, maybe it is that perception. Like even like video gamers, right? Like video gamers hate the idea of NFTs and play to earn video games for some reason. I don't understand why, because like being able to own your own assets in that game and say when you're done with it, you can sell them to buy, whatever you need for your next game that you're moving on, versus just like leaving it alone. Maybe it's the nomenclature, maybe it's the model of how it all works, the tokenomics, maybe it's just is what it is. Who knows? But I think
Yeah.
time will tell. And it's just about how we react and adapt, and how the education's brought out, I think, hopefully, is what changes people's mind about some of this stuff. That's as educators in the space, as a content creator, that's all I can hope for, at least.
Yeah. And we have a video gamer artist. So the Mud Foundation is what we do is we support artists who make artwork using technology. And we exhibit them. We're a true nonprofit. We do not sell artists' work. We're there just to exhibit for them. And also, Rodolfo Peraza, who is our director and the founder, has 2 different companies that create virtual reality experiences. So we have a lot of equipment that can help making virtual reality experiences, and that's what we're showing right now on our metaverse. So we created our own metaverse, and it's called Onland. We're not selling land or anything like that. We're just presenting our artists' VR work on it. And I have a personal project that I'm putting out right now, which is like a kind of a critique space for artists that work digitally. That's going to be on the metaverse, and they're going to have an exhibition. So like, I think one thing that the video gamers, I don't want to speak for our artists, but the show is going to be up during Art Basel, because the show is at another nonprofit called Locust Projects. Sometimes people have a weird reaction to commercialization, and when they have something that they love extremely dearly, when other people come in and say, hey, we figured out a way you can sell that. That I think is actually the more of maybe the response you're getting, this pushback. It's not because, they don't get the tech. They could get the tech pretty easily. It's just that they don't see any need to take these video games, which they've been doing for their entire lives, and they've formed an emotional bond, and sell them. They just don't understand. They feel like, oh, there's all these people that never done it before, and they're coming in my space, and they're selling all this stuff, and they don't get it. And there's some sort of purity test for your pure interest in video games, just like the same way it is in the art world. I think the art world has the exact same situation.
Hey, there is absolutely something to be said about that. I mean, for the people that have been in that industry, for you to take that that position and say, hey, like, wait a second, before you just come in here and start changing shit up, let's just make sure that this is going to work for us, because we've seen some of these other industries take a huge hit. It's good to be innovative, it's good to push the envelope, it's good to make some changes, but if it's going to be a detriment to the entire ecosystem, like, no thanks, like, we're okay, we're good, everything seems to be working right now. Like, when it comes to authenticity, like, maybe it's not about making the art an NFT, maybe it's just about that certificate of authenticity, because that's not something you can duplicate, right?
Yes. And I love that, one story that I have is that first of all, the NFTs were created by artists during a event called 7-on-7 that was run by Rhizome. Rhizome has been around since 2003. And it is really one of the most respected authorities when it comes to digital art, computer-based arts, net art. And so Rhizome put on this conference, I'm sure you know about it, where they paired a technologist together and an artist together and tried to have them solve a problem like in one night. And so the artist said, well, we have a problem when it comes to digital artwork. When we make the digital artwork, it's great, right? And we love the work, we like working this way. But when we go to sell it, we have to basically have the gallery give our collectors a USB thumb drive and a piece of paper saying that this is like 1 out of 10 copies, which is ridiculous, because of course you can make copies all you want to from a digital file. And if you have 1 out of 10, that means they're selling it to other collectors And those collectors can just go make a bunch of copies, right, and put it online, whatever. So, but that is the way it used to work. I bought a video suite like that from a gallery. I have a piece of paper that says this is one of 17 copies. And of course it makes me reluctant to put it up online to show the entire video series. That's why you don't see a lot of video art online, because people don't want to show all of it. They're afraid that it's going to ruin the market, the value of the work that they paid for. And it's also kept the prices way down. So this is the old way. So these two people got together and he said, we need another way to sell digital work and say that one person owns it, and just have it to be all agreed about. We want that stamp. And they did even better. They found a way to do it. First of all, they found a way to do it by creating the NFT, which is great because anybody can look and see, yes, you are the one that owns it, very easy to figure it out. Also, it encourages you to share your work, since there's no point to hiding it. So more people can see it, which is every artist, every artist wants to be seen by as many people as possible, or the people who appreciate it. And so they solved this problem, but the problem is that first they had a couple issues. They made a shortcut because you could not upload a lot of info right onto the blockchain, right? So that's why you have things that point to things that are off the blockchain. So they made that, and they didn't anticipate that this would happen, right? They didn't anticipate that people would essentially make things that I'll call them playing cards, or any other sort of a sticker, and start trading those stickers like they're money. And
you're talking like PFP style things, right?
Yeah, like PFP style things, and it's not all NFTs. It's just they made it. They were the type of artists, like Rhizome is not a household name. Okay, so that name of the organization is not a household name because it has very little to do with sales. It's like writes art criticism about digital art, and has a great, amazing archive of all the net art from the 80s through the 2000s. But this is stuff for people that are really into the very niche field of the art world. So it's for nerds like me. And what I'm saying is that they didn't think, oh, wow, I mean, we're going to bring in with this little thing, we're going to bring in the people that, love anime, the people that, love video game characters or comics and stuff like that. We're going to give them a way to make something, upload it, and then it's going to start trading for mad amount of money, and so, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit, it's kind of an interesting thing because there's a little bit of is this art world snobbery, right? Are you talking to an elitist art world snob who, is like, oh no, that's not good art, therefore, I mean, I'll never say something's not art. I'm okay if anybody wants to say something is art, but I still have the ability to say I don't like it.
Oh, 100%. And I think, that's obviously, something that, we as humans, have the ability to do. Yes, because everything can be art to somebody. Are there boundaries? Are there lines? Yes, 100%. And we all have our own ability to say, you know what, great. You're an artist in your own mind and in your own right. Great for you, but that's not for me. And I love how, we can have that kind of conversation, and, you might not be for the PFP, and some people might be, well, that's all I live for is I'm a degen, I'm a trader, all I want to do is, flip a couple JPEGs and go home at the end of the day happy. Whereas for some people like yourself, and I know that there's plenty of other people that, that appreciate art as, more than just the PFP, but that is something that it works for.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, the whole reason why I decided to quit teaching, right, and go work at this little, nonprofit foundation was because I saw the interest in digital art. And I said, oh my gosh, so many more people even know about it. It was hard for me to teach it. I mean, I used to have to get in arguments, not arguments. I used to have to get in discussions with like the photo professor and the graphic design professor and say, look, I understand that you don't understand what I'm trying to teach. I'm not teaching graphic design. I'm not teaching photography. Actually, on quite the other hand, like for me, like the photo could be anything. It could be something found online. We're going to mess it up in the programs. And so like that's what I was teaching, and it's been confusing for a lot of people to even understand what it is. What is making art. So it's the fact that people have actually suddenly, a lot of people are like, wow, I can make art on the computer, and that's just as valid as a photograph or a painting. It's been a wonderful thing. So that's why I wanted to jump ship, but I did. And then our first lectures at the Mud Foundation, I said, well, as the outreach coordinator, I'm just go around and tell people who we are, and explain to them who we are, and make connections. And, also, of course, hopefully get donors and sponsors and things like that. My first lecture with them was called Beyond NFTs, Art and Technology from the 1960s to Present. Where I gave a lecture, and it was work from like, because we had our first computer generated show in 1963.
Really?
Yes, in New York.
I absolutely have no idea about any of this.
At the Wise Gallery. Yeah.
Interesting.
So the people at Bell Labs were like the most important people. So the people at Bell Labs, a lot of the technologists that were working there, they started just experimenting and creating these things that didn't have any real function or purpose. Art, and so, and they started they started messing around. And this is even before computers had displays or monitors. So they could program, and then the computer would spit out this thing that it created on the plotter or whatever. And that was the first, digital art. And it wasn't even digital, it was computer-based art, because we didn't have monitors. So yeah, it's been around for a long time. It's more widely known about in places like New York, Berlin, London,
where art has a larger presence, or
much
more
larger,
like your fine art.
Yeah. I mean, if you grow up in New York, I mean, you basically have an undergrad degree in art appreciation. Just walking around, it's
Right.
not fair. It's not fair for any of us who didn't grow up there.
No,
it's
a good point. I got to spend a couple years there, and I do understand what you mean. I mean, there is a lot of history there. There's a lot to soak in, and there is a lot of really rich art history, which is really cool to be able to check out. And it's at your fingertips anywhere you go.
Yeah. So that was my belief, and I only got on board with NFTs when I started seeing artists that I really respected use them.
Yeah.
That's the only time, and it was happening more and more right before the crash. And then it happened after the crash. I started seeing these like great little websites selling NFTs pop up, and I knew who these artists were because I remembered them from before NFT times, when they were just publishing in Rhizome, or they were in like the 2-3 galleries in New York that showed digital art, and yeah, so we have a OG guy with us from the before times, from the 90s. We have as the person who's the director of our education is named Vuk Kozik. And Vuk Kozik was one of these artists that he created ASCII art, with all the different numbers and numerals and stuff that create to form a picture. You have some of it also on the blockchain, because you can hold it on the blockchain. It's light enough. So he created this ASCII art with green and black, and many people have said that, the people from the Matrix were inspired by his work.
The falling.
And yeah, in the intro. So he also did like he did a lot of online projects, and they had art in this place called Documenta. And I'm trying to remember, Documenta is it's kind of like an Art Basel, but it's in Germany. It's a showcase. There's nothing for sale, but it's a giant showcase of art that takes over Germany and in multiple locations. And they actually put aside this one location. So we're going to show this internet-based art, people. I think this was in 1996. I might get that wrong, but 1996. So they do that, right? They put up a website with all this internet-based art. And after the end of the show, they want to take it down. And the artists were kind of outraged. They were like, you can't take down internet art, because internet art was free, right? Internet art was supposed to be like graffiti for the internet. Right. So the ethos behind it, which is very similar to you guys' ethos, is that it's free, it's for the people, there's no gatekeepers, anybody can be able to enjoy it. And so what Vuk did was he copied the website and he just put it on his website, easy, right? And it's called Documenta X. And he got into some trouble for it, but he also got like well known. And I'll send you over the interview I did with him recently. I mean, he's skeptical of NFTs, but he's very funny about it. Like he said, we were the Sex Pistols. My generation was the Sex Pistols, and these people are Duran Duran.
Right. I really like that. That's funny. So let me ask you a question then, because and I've said this, many times, whether it's on stage or on a YouTube video, is that, we're right now we're living in like the beta test of NFTs, and that is, with the PFP and kind of what's happening right now. But we know that the long-term future of NFTs is absolutely amazing. I mean, think about anything from, your land deeds, your marriage certificates, your health records, all that kind of stuff. Anything that requires digital ownership. I mean, that's probably, the main catalyst of all of this is digital ownership. What's that next evolutionary step for the art world that, people should be looking at as far as like what NFTs can provide? What kind of value can they provide for that art world?
So it's so I didn't say the rest of my story. I'm sorry. I'm long-winded. Okay. I'm from the South originally.
It's perfect.
I'm from the same town as William Faulkner, and you can sure tell it when I talk. So
very poetic.
Yes, it's very long-winded. So what I was going to say is that I think the certificate of authentication is where the art world is headed when it comes to using them. I bought a piece of video art recently, actually it was in the spring, and I bought the piece of video art from a gallery with money, regular old money, and then I really wanted it backed up by an NFT. I wanted to have, because the art gallery gave me the certificate and then gave me the USB. Right. And I said, you know what? I really want an NFT. I want this recorded on the blockchain. So the artist made me one. She did it on Tezos because it's free, and she made me one. I have a little NFT of my piece as well. And it got me thinking when I did that, this was a perfect way to capture something, and without disturbing the system too much, like the galleryist who picked out the work, he gets paid, she gets paid in the currency they prefer. And then I also get my NFT, and why can't that happen all the time with digital work?
I mean, that's where it should go.
It will. Yeah. That's where it's going to go. And it's really great. I think also we're probably going to have NFTs attached to physical artwork, just because the problems of provenance, the problems of tracking where an artwork ends up will be solved. When a curator wants to put together like a major show at the MoMA or something, or a huge museum, they have a hard time tracking down all this artwork. NFTs just do away with that. We could figure out who the owners are. Now, that is a good and a bad thing to the art market. The art market is also a little bit scared of that, of course, because some owners do not want to be known. right? So I think more education in the way that you can use like an anonymous wallet, that sort of thing. And also collectors are usually, people that have lots of disposable income, and so they tend to be a little older. So we're really going to have to push for more places in the art world to be educating people. Probably going to have people like me suddenly become people that are managing portfolios of NFTs, that sort of thing, so that it's easier. But yeah, I think, well, see, I don't know. I mean, I hope that we do adopt it. Like I'm pro adopting blockchain technology in the art world. The only thing that I get nervous about is how many people will want to stay anonymous. It might be quite a lot.
So yeah, and I mean, and that makes perfect sense, and and the ability to do that is is, I'd say, pretty easy. You don't have to. You can, in some platforms, you can tie your physical body, or not your physical body, but your identity to your address. And then some places you are able to do it anonymously, or have someone else be the signer for your wallet or whatever. So like you could have someone represent you. And I love that idea. I mean, that's almost an industry creator right there, is the ability for someone who understands the ecosystem of blockchain and blockchain technology and NFTs and art, and able to facilitate that for people who are either scared of the technology or not willing to learn it, whether it's age or just whatever.
Yeah. I mean, these are usually people that enjoy collecting art as a hobby and a pastime, and, telling them that they now have to learn about NFTs and blockchain, it's a bit much, for them to do, as well as make money in their other jobs, whatever's giving them that much money to spend on artwork, so that's the thing about art. Art is a luxury good, and as much as artists, and here's the reason why I brought up Vuk again, because art is a luxury good, right? But there's always artists that are working against that want to make art that's for the people, that everyone can enjoy. So, and I like that kind of artwork as well, so you see it with graffiti artists, and you see it with people doing it with NFTs. They want to make something that can spread. One interesting NFT by an artist that I liked, I don't remember the artist's name, but it was on Folia.app. Have you been on that one?
I'm not, no.
Yeah, well, it's a great little artist NFT platform. This person, whoever it was, created a NFT called Kudzu. And kudzu is like this vine in the deep south that just takes over everything, and it covers everything. And so he made this this NFT that actually spreads to other wallets. So once somebody has it in their wallet, it actually, I'm not sure really how, but I think it spreads through transactions, and it spreads to other wallets. So the kudzu spreads everywhere. And like, that's to me like beautiful art. That is a beautiful piece of art, and it doesn't cost anything. I think there's always going to be artists that push back against the system. Like, that's why artists are so important in our society. And I think that's why technologists have kind of woken up as of late to say, wait a second, we need art, because we have people that do not think in the same manner as us at all. They think in an incredibly creative manner. They think, not just outside the box cliches, but, Adobe has known this for a long time. So Adobe has had an artist residency, and the artists get to use like brand new software, because what do artists do when they get brand new software? Do you know?
Right. They try it out, right?
Well, they don't try it out. They try to do stuff that you're not supposed to do with it.
Oh.
Okay, like you try to break it. You're just like, oh, what thing can I do? I'm not supposed to do it. So everything that like the Adobe little like, puts up, it's like, oh, this is how you do this. Like, artists will just be like, blip, 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 blip. I'm just going to figure out what I can do, figure out how to crash the program. That's what artists do. And that's why we are well respected, like even back into Da Vinci. I mean, we're entrepreneurial. We try to figure out what other people aren't doing, and we're really important for society.
Yeah.
because of that
No,
reason.
I love that. And thinking about, when you say things like Da Vinci, it makes me think in my mind, something that drives me crazy. And don't get me wrong, I love the PFP culture of NFTs. I'm in it. I've got a mutant ape, but I love all that stuff. But like the one thing that I don't understand is why, and maybe it's just because kids see how much money is being made in crypto, and they see how much money is being made in this entire economy and ecosystem, is they don't understand how art actually takes time to appreciate. And like like when fine art was painted, like that shit, it wasn't worth anything for a very long time. And so like, yeah, your PFP is not going to be worth $1 million overnight. I'm really sorry about that. But does that upset people in the art world to think like, bozo, no, it's not going to make you rich overnight? Stop thinking that way.
Yes, artists want their work to be appreciated, not for how much money it could make the owner.
Yeah. Okay.
Like when we're making art in our studios or on my computer, we're not thinking, oh, I really want to make little Tommy really rich one day. That's one of the good thing about NFTs is the resale royalties.
Yeah.
Which we've been trying to have for a long, long time. It started with Robert Rauschenberg, who was, an abstract expressionist in the 60s, So he's been trying to put in resale royalties, but it's very difficult to track down collectors to give them, even if it isn't a contract. So, that's a really good thing. But yeah, artists, I think artists genuinely just want to make their work and be able to afford to, keep a roof over their heads and eat and have families just like everybody else. And so most of us do not think about like the work appreciating in somebody's wallet until they're like so excited to sell it. That is actually the thing that kind of kept me out of the PFP space and NFT space. I saw that and I was like, ugh. Like, this is a really weird, because it's okay if people do that with Beanie Babies, right? But if they start calling it art is something that's been elevated to another level, I would hope, of seriousness in our society. So yeah, that kind of was like not cool. And it's good that there's royalties put in there, and I'm excited to see now that the market has crashed. Now that the artists that I know are starting to take this more seriously, I'm so excited to see what they can do with the technology, because they won't be playing it safe, right? They're not, there's a big difference between art and designing.
Yes.
Right.
Good point.
So
That's a great point.
If you're a designer, you say, what does my client want? And you design it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't do that with art. Art doesn't have any client. When I'm an artist, I make whatever I want. And then I go out there and I say, does anybody want it? It's a totally different experience of the world and of making.
That's really interesting. Now, and let's get to this really quick, because now this is starting to change within a lot of the NFT marketplaces, is the royalty free thing, which to me, I am absolutely perplexed by that. One, for two different reasons. One, what we just talked about was that artists deserve the royalties because they spent a lot of time to create that art for people. But two, in this ecosystem of projects and development teams and all that stuff, if there is no incentive, if there is no royalty, what's to stop people from just rug pulling? That is ultimately kind of like the design of the rug pull. So like, what do you think? What is your thought about like now the narrative shifting over to the royalty free thing? Because again, that to me is like a load of crap.
It's just going to leave a lot of people that are making art out, because we're going to say, well, no, and so what I think is going to happen is that the quality of the artwork starts going down, and I see some PFPs and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And I see some PFPs and I'm like, I'm sorry. I've been an artist my entire life. My mom was an art professor. I was an art professor. I'm in Miami. I'm also in New York. And And some of this stuff is just not good. It's just not good,
So in your
in my
opinion,
opinion. Yeah.
no, I agree with you.
In
In
my
your opinion,
well-informed opinion that has 2 degrees,
yeah,
like in my well-informed opinion that also has 2 degrees, this is not good art, and if people want to listen, they can listen, but I'm not going to buy stuff where I don't think that the art is good. I'm not going to buy stickers or cards or anything like that. It's just not good art,
I agree.
sorry,
Like
it's just not good.
like to me, like, so what's your thoughts on the punks then? Those pixelated punks that'll go for hundreds of thousands of dollars, like that to
Yeah.
me. And I get maybe it's like, an early mover advantage style thing, but like to me, that just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think that there's a nice art space called Vertical Art Crypto,
Mhm.
which has like a kind of like a residency, like the one I'm trying to get started. And they teach CryptoPunks in their like history of NFTs, as like one of the very first ways that you could like have these traits that mix up and they're like kind of generative that way. And
Mhm.
like I listened to it and I thought, okay, I have more appreciation, but I'm not going to buy one, because to me, there's a lot of amazing generative art out there that is made by artists that don't want to form like little clubs and don't want to promise a bunch of things. And to me, it just seems like I think people abuse the word art a lot, right? They try to apply the word art in order to not be seen for what they are.
A money grab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you apply the word art, you can say like, oh, well, anybody who doesn't like it just doesn't appreciate my art. And it's a easy, great way to just sort of distract and change the conversation. But I don't really know any membership clubs, in Miami that give me a painting to put on my wall when I join. So I feel like
Would that
it's
give
not
you
it's
incentive
not
to?
the exciting part of art to me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like what we're doing at the Mud Foundation is we're going to create an NFT that's going to be for like a membership card, right? And I think that that's a great use of NFTs that have function in them.
100%.
And then I think that other great uses are to provide the provenance and tracking capabilities and resale capabilities, when they're attached to something that's a more serious piece of artwork.
I love
It's
it.
not as serious.
I love it.
One thing I know that I talked about when we had our initial conversation is that, I maybe have a different background than a lot of people. I'm an artist. I was a traditional artist for a long time. And then when I got my graduate degree, I started doing moving image work. And then I started making work that was entirely digital. And I've been a digital art professor for the last 12 years, well before there was NFT technology. So I never taught how to make an NFT in any of my classes.
Mhm.
And now I work as the outreach coordinator at a nonprofit called the Mud Foundation, and I'm also have created my own online critique space for artists that are digital in nature, can upload, download. So my background is not in the money at all. It's not in the money side of NFTs and art. It's purely in the art side.
So you've got that perspective. You are living in the real world of art, kind of learning all about this NFT and digital aspect. Now, you've taught, you were a professor of digital art for quite some time. So
Yes.
you've known about digital art for a number of years.
Yeah,
Um,
longer than people in my department knew about it. That's for sure. I always had a hard time telling people what I taught because I would say I'm teaching fine art. It's just made with computer programs, and people would get very confused about that and say, oh, is it graphic design? Or are you a photographer? And I would say, no, there's a world out there where there's a lot of people that are working with art digitally, and to me, that was a very exciting place. I entered it when I was 16 is when I found out about digital artwork because of the net art movement that happened in the 90s. And I am from Mississippi. I grew up and I really loved art. I did all the traditional ways of art, but I could get on my computer, and it was actually the first time I had a computer was when I was 16, and I could find artwork on there, and it was avant-garde. It was like we would learn the Impressionists were avant-garde. Van Gogh was avant-garde. He didn't sell any of his work except for one piece to his brother. So I mean, they were so avant-garde that they were well ahead of their time, and nobody wanted to buy what they were selling. So when I saw internet-based art, I thought, this is actually where the avant-garde lives. And just because I have a computer, I have access to it.
Yeah.
And it really collapsed, the need to go to a big city just to see art. And so to me, like, it's all the same thing as my 16-year-old self, and I've been completely addicted to digital art ever since.
Do you think the metaverse will play a role for people like you that as you're growing up and people, getting into art and having that ability to literally, like, you could transform yourself. Someone will build a metaverse where you can transform yourself to the 1600s and watch, a piece of art, get created. You can like sit there and watch it happen.
Well, I mean, that's one reason why I'm so passionate. I love the metaverse because I can remember a time when it was very hard to leave and just, get to experience another reality, And so I'm building right now. I've already built. We have a metaverse at Mud called Onland, and I have built a campus, right? Because I can't leave teaching alone, apparently. So I built a campus. It has 3 buildings, and one's called the Critique Club, and it's where artists can go in and critique each other's work, give each other feedback for a period of time, and then they can have a show in the other 2 buildings. One's called the Salon, and the other's called the Salon de Refusé. And the building names are taken directly from the story of the Impressionists, which was always the story, also the story of the first galleries. It was the first time artists had made work that they knew was very unpopular, but they showed it anyway. That's the story of the Impressionists. It's really cool. So anyways, I made this place. And I'm inviting the first cohort in. It's probably going to be well after this deadline, but it's October 28th is the deadline for applications. It's called the Loop Art Critique. Loop is in feedback loop. I'm not charging artists for it, and I'm taking no commission on their artwork that's sold. I'm self-funding it, and then grants from the government and grants from different organizations are doing it. So it should be fun.
That's awesome. And it sounds like you're doing that because it's a passion of yours.
Yes.
And anytime you do something you love, it's a passion project, and it's cool to hear about that. Now, because we
it's all the metaverse. It's on the metaverse. I keep forgetting. It's all on the metaverse, so like, to me, the metaverse, it's really important, to actually go back on the internet, right, and be able to change things. It's like going back to the beginning of the internet, where I had a GeoCities website. I don't know if anybody knows what that is. But, so it was my own website, and I had to learn HTML, and I had to build it. And then I had like a blog roll with all my friends and stuff like that. I mean, it's a personalization of the internet. I love the fact that you can just buy a plot of land and create your own thing on it. I mean, I think it's going to turn us all into entrepreneurs, which I don't think is a bad thing. And you're going to be able to reach artists through, time and space. I mean, it's going to really bring the art community together. I'm very excited about it. I think that's also where a lot of the art world is headed, is the metaverse.
Absolutely. Now, when for your metaverse, do you guys have the Oculus functionality? Are you?
Yes, we
Oh,
do.
cool.
Because ours is just for artwork, and so we're a nonprofit who created a metaverse, so we've got this great nonprofit status to it. So we're not selling parcels of land, but if we ever did, it would go back into supporting art, because we can't make a profit from it. I mean, so I think one interesting thing about like crypto and Web3 is that like how enthusiastic they are about decentralization, But then on the same end, I don't think they realize how corrupting money can be. It doesn't
Yes.
really go for decentralization. I mean, does it? Like in the history of money, it doesn't.
No.
No.
I mean, and at this point, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, they're literally, I mean, even Bitcoin's not truly decentralized. There is no true decentralization. I don't
Yeah.
know, without something being completely AI created and driven, you will never have true decentralization because it's always someone's idea. Someone has to implement something for it to happen,
Yeah. No, I like everyone being like their own entrepreneur and trying to craft their own, way forward. I think that's much more in the spirit of Web3,
Love it.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely, absolutely love it. Well, I've had a wonderful time chatting with you, Ariel.
Yes.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about the Mud Foundation or the Loop. Was it Loop Art Critique?
Loop art critique. It's kind of an old-fashioned word and it's kind of an old-fashioned system, but that's one thing I like about it. It's an old-fashioned way of doing art
Hmm.
in this kind of new space,
Well, very cool. So
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to reach out or they want to learn more or reach out and get in touch with you, where can people find you at?
Well, I'm all over Google. I was blessed with a very unusual name. So there's no other Ariel Baron-Robbins. So you can go online and go to my Twitter. It's Ariel Baron-Robbins. It's Ariel Baron-Rob1. You can go to my Instagram, Ariel Baron-Robbins Art. You can go to Loop Art Critique has a Twitter. Loop Art
Mhm.
Critique has an Instagram. And the Mud Foundation is really interesting. Our website is mud.foundation.
Cool.
So it's really easy. You can get there really, and our metaverse is Onland, like on land.io.
Easy to find all that stuff.
Super easy. So that we're just trying to make it easy.
Awesome. Well, Ariel, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with
Yeah.
me. This has been awesome. I learned a lot about you. I'm looking forward to seeing you down in Miami for the conference.
I'm really
S-
excited. Yeah, the Mud Foundation has their reception on November 28th. So at night. So that's when our big reception is. And I'm hoping I can poach some of the conference people to come over.
there you go. I'm sure that'll be easy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Bye.
Bye bye.